Oklahoma is my home. This is where I was born and raised. It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan refugees, and 300,000 plus acres of land sold to Chinese nationals has made Oklahoma the hub for human trafficking, the indoctrination of our children in critical race theory, sexual immorality, and abortion on demand. And finally, the unconstitutional and illegal vaccine mandate, leaving hundreds of thousands of our legal and law-abiding citizens jobless. Enough is enough, and the political theater must stop. We must have a governor who's willing to lead legislators and Oklahomans to fight back against this tyranny and aggressively address these issues head-on. As the next governor of the state of Oklahoma, I will, in the first 100 days, initiate a forensic audit with canvases to ensure election integrity, secure Oklahoma's borders, stop all state funding to school districts who train or teach CRT to faculty, staff, or students, and end all abortions. Oklahoma, let's put our faith back in God, believe that nothing is impossible, and make Oklahoma free again. Oklahoma is my home. This is where I was born and raised. It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan refugees, and 300,000 plus acres of land sold to Chinese nationals has made Oklahoma the hub for human trafficking, the indoctrination of our children in critical race theory, sexual immorality, and abortion on demand. And finally, the unconstitutional and illegal vaccine mandate, leaving hundreds of thousands of our legal and law-abiding citizens jobless. Enough is enough, and the political theater must stop. We must have a governor who's willing to lead legislators and Oklahomans to fight back against this tyranny and aggressively address these issues head-on. As the next governor of the state of Oklahoma, I will, in the first 100 days, initiate a forensic audit with canvases to ensure election integrity, secure Oklahoma's borders, stop all state funding to school districts who train or teach CRT to faculty, staff, or students, and end all abortions. Oklahoma, let's put our faith back in God, believe that nothing is impossible, and make Oklahoma free again. Oklahoma is my home. This is where I was born and raised. It was here where I was given a chance at life, being conceived after my mother was violated at the age of 16. This is where I received my education and learned with hard work, discipline, and courage anything was possible. But things have changed. This is not the Oklahoma I remember. Over the last several years, I've seen fear, chaos, and division tear this nation apart through the efforts of communists and the apathy of Republicans in name only, who are either incapable or unwilling to do whatever it takes to protect our God-given rights. Election fraud, open borders, riots, unvetted Afghan refugees, and 300,000 plus acres of land sold to Chinese nationals has made Oklahoma the hub for human trafficking, the indoctrination of our children in critical race theory, sexual immorality, and abortion on demand. And finally, the unconstitutional and illegal vaccine mandate, leaving hundreds of thousands of our legal and law-abiding citizens jobless. Enough is enough, and the political theater must stop. We must have a governor who's willing to lead legislators and Oklahomans to fight back against this tyranny and aggressively address these issues head-on. As the next governor of the state of Oklahoma, I will, in the first 100 days, initiate a forensic audit with canvases to ensure election integrity, secure Oklahoma's borders, stop all state funding to school districts who train or teach CRT to faculty, staff, or students, and end all abortions. Oklahoma, let's put our faith back in God, believe that nothing is impossible, and make Oklahoma free again. Welcome, everyone, to another virtual town hall. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Sherwood, 2022 gubernatorial candidate for the state of Oklahoma. Man, we are excited. A lot of things are happening. The primary is just around the corner. Folks, I got to encourage you to get out and vote. We are seeing a waking and a shaking and an awakening of the grassroots movement across this wonderful state and land. We were talking before going live with our wonderful producer, Moto, about how this grassroots campaign has been just over the top. We've never seen anything like this. There's a movement in Oklahoma right now that will take the attention of Oklahoma and put it square in the world's view. We will see the hand of God be upon Oklahoma because we actually see people actually acknowledging God. Imagine that concept, right? And when we understand who God is, we understand that He and He alone made us, but He also gave us the principles that we see laid out in the United States Constitution. He gave us the rights that we stand for, those things that we want to protect. So when we say we're protecting rights, we're actually protecting the rights that God gave us. So these are rights that are kingdom rights for us. And I want to encourage you to go to our app. You can see it right here on the cell phone. This cell phone carries truth with it. Go to our app at Sherwood 2022. And you will get there a couple different ways. You can go to the App Store, Sherwood 2022. You can go to the website, Sherwood2022.com. All of our platforms are right there for you to see because we believe in clarity and transparency. We want you to understand what we stand for. This is not just something we're making a promise and we're going to forget about what we said. I am wise enough to understand that every word that I'm saying right now is memorialized for the rest of time. Meaning you can go back and pick this stuff up and say, well, he said this at one time. Look, it is easy to remember the truth. It's difficult to remember lies. That's why politicians are so good at lying because they talk so much and they don't have any idea what they do. Now, I want to encourage you to really understand what we stand for. We are constitutionalists. We're very adept on the Constitution. We understand it. We are strong on all of the rights, and we're specifically strong on the 10th Amendment, which means that, in effect, that we the people and the states retain those rights and those powers unless we specifically give them up to the government. Now, the only powers that the government really has, if you can look at Article 1, Section 8, which you've heard me cite many times, Congress powers total 18, not 1,800. So it's super easy to understand that we have given them more power. I hear them talking about today gun laws, and I'm like, why are we talking about this? What are we doing? I hear them talking about abortion. Why are we talking about this? The states could stop this stuff. I hear them talking about education. That makes me laugh. I mean, really? Do we really think the federal government has any business in our education, their system? They've messed it up already. They're indoctrinating our kids. That's not even part of their duties. So when you hear politicians making these promises along those lines, know that either two things are happening. Number one, they're in error and they don't know what they're talking about. They're basically ignorant of the Constitution. Or number two, they're flat out lying to you. So don't be remiss of that. They can lie to you every day and you might ever know it. The biggest thing I want you to keep in mind is we need your help on June 28th. Get out there and absolutely vote, because when you vote that day, you are voting for a nation and a state that is under God, that is indivisible, that has a concept of liberty and justice for all. That's what you're voting for when you vote for Mark Sherwood. And my wife is with me. My wife, Michelle, is amazing. She is my queen, my best friend, my pal. And I am making no bones about it. She's the most important person on planet Earth to me. Now, my most important person overall is God himself. I have been open to profess Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. And I don't back away from that. And I also understand other people don't believe that way. And that's fine. I love you anyway, because we live in a land where you can actually worship Satan if you want to. How's that? I'm not going to stop you. But I can't help you when the consequences overwhelm you. So as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And we will absolutely stand up and represent godly principles in the framework of our Constitution, in the idea that God made that. And so we will protect the Constitution. So no matter what you believe about your faith or what you believe about my faith, we have a freedom of faith. We have a freedom of religion. We have a freedom of speech. We have a freedom of press. We have a freedom to peaceably assemble. We have a freedom of redress. That's the First Amendment. The Second Amendment's important. We need to have the opportunity to keep and bear arms for the necessity to keep a free state. That is an amendment that shows us why we do what we do, which is kind of cool. But the closing comment phrase in that says it all. It shall not be infringed. Because when it's infringed, let's reverse it. We lose the ability to have a free state. We're seeing that to our north and our west. We're seeing that around the country. Where you take away guns, you end up getting this idea of tyranny, where the government transitions you from states and nations into this idea of colonies, where you have your privileges, but your privileges are limited by the government. We cannot go there. We won't go there. We must not go there. Friends, tonight I'm super excited. I get a chance to have a conversation with a person I'm getting to know more and more and better each day. This is going to be a wonderful town hall that you won't forget. So I want you to make sure you comment on the Facebook Live, which are going right now. Make sure that you're giving the comments, giving the thumbs up, asking questions, share. That's a big deal. So excited about our guest. You know, I've been building this up for a few days right now. I got to know Kevin and Sam Sorbo, and first Sam, a few months ago, right? And I began to get to know them and talk to them, and they are the real deal. They have 3 children, Brandon, Octavia, and Shane. And Kevin doesn't need an introduction, but I remember watching him when I was a young man, a young boy, you know, and he's going to say it gives away his age, but he was the original Hercules, and I appreciate that. He's played on a lot of shows that we've seen recently, as God's Not Dead, Let There Be Light. I think we'll remember those. He is truly a beacon of hope and the sort of the carrier of light in the middle of the darkness. So with that said, man, I appreciate you. Kevin, thanks for joining us today, man, on the virtual town hall.
It's good to be here. I'm on the road right now doing a lot of speaking events. I just did a pro-life speaking event down at Costa Mesa. I got another one up here in pro-life. And then Friday, I'm headed up to speak at the Ronald Reagan Ranch to about 500 young conservatives in high school. I'm looking forward to that.
Come on, man. So talk about pro-life, and why is that so important to you?
Because it's life, because it's murder. I don't care. You know, it's interesting what's happened, since Roe v. Wade. Television, movies, the politicians, we've normalized what we're doing in terms of murdering a baby. It is murder. It is complete murder. You tell me why when a woman is pregnant and she gets killed, they call it a double homicide, right? That's what they call it. Mm-hmm. So they're admitting in the court of law that you killed not just one life, but 2 lives. And to sit there now and people now, and I'm in California right now, and they're trying to pass a law that you have up to maybe a year after the baby's born to decide if you want to keep the baby or not. I mean, this is evil beyond evil. But as I said, we've become so desensitized to death and dying and shootings and murder and all this that we totally forget what we're doing right now. And it's crazy. This is one of the most. Bernard Nathanson was one of the guys that was in the camp with Maggie Sanger, who started the whole pro-abortion world. In her mind, she wanted to get rid of all the black babies because blacks were inferior, and she was very open about that back in the 30s or whatever it was. And I'm looking at today and going, guys, there's a heartbeat at 22 days. They admit to selling body parts. So if they're selling body parts, that would be a human being. So I'm trying to fight that. It's incredible that we've become so nonchalant about death in this country, and it's unbelievable. And people don't realize in China, I have a script that we're trying to raise money for right now called Pearls for China. As a female lawyer friend of mine who's lived over there for 30 years, and she wrote this wonderful script because she's trying to get the abortion movement done there because there's been 500 million forced abortions in China. 500 million forced abortions in China. That's 160 million more Americans that we have in the country right now.
Yeah, and 2 things, my life's been a crazy story, but I'm a product of a rape situation. I can tell you, man, I'm not a mistake. And the second thing about this, I just had talked with a lady that was a 3-month
she's survived a 3-month abortion attempt. She can't really see and hear because it destroyed part of her neurological function. But she found out, and this blew my mind, by having horrible dreams at 5 years old of babies screaming, trying to fight for their life. Confronted her mom. Turns out she was a twin, and they got one, but not two. I mean, horrific things. And so, are you seeing traction in this right now? Because this has been a big platform of us. People thought, well, you're a radical, you're extremist. Are you seeing traction around the U.S. with this?
Yeah, I think there's a positive movement going on right now. I mean, so if Roe v. Wade gets read, which hopefully they will, and I think they will, the reaction has been absolutely insane. Their reaction from the left is to say, I'm going to kill you for not allowing me to kill my baby. And this is what they're upset with. You're probably going to have 35 states that are still going to have abortion laws. So each state can still have abortions. I think what they're worried about in those 15 to 20 states that will outlaw it, the inconvenience that they have to drive to another state to kill their baby. I mean, so their reaction, typical on the left, and it's only gotten worse in the last few years, is to react with anger and hatred and violence. That's how they react to things now. And they used to be the party that sit there and, come on, man, we all got to get along. They need to look up what the definition of the word liberal means. It means everybody's point of view is okay with us. It's not that way anymore. Right now, all they have is their anger and hate. These are people, I guarantee you, if I did a documentary on them and they were honest one-on-one conversations, these are people probably raised without a father, the majority of them. They do not like themselves. So how can they love their neighbor like themselves when they look in the mirror and hate what they see? They probably don't have jobs. They probably don't have relationships that they're happy with, that they have relationships at all. And, these are the Antifas, the BLMers, and all these people out there. The Black Lives Matter people, that's only a little bit of a segue. People need to look at their manifesto. They believe in Marxism, communism. They believe in destroying God, destroying family units. They look at women being pregnant as slavery. So I said, wow, so if we stopped every woman, no more pregnancies, how much longer will humanity exist? Maybe 110 years? And then there's no more humans left on the planet. I mean, it's crazy. Political correctness was the grandfather of all this. And it's just how all these branches now have just destroyed everything. And they're out there to cancel you. And if they're out to cancel you and me for speaking the truth, maybe we need to listen to what they have to say, because obviously they've lived perfect, sin-free lives. And we're just horrible, horrible human beings.
Now, your faith is super important for you. I've followed you for years, know you and your family now. What drives you, man, in this deal? And talk about your faith.
I've always had faith. I grew up in a Lutheran home in Minnesota, typical Norwegian, Scandinavian bloodline. Even to my teenage years and the wild 20s and stuff like that, I never stopped believing. The faith was always there for me. So I don't understand if I don't look at the world. If I look up at the stars at night and you think of infinity, you think things going forever and all other planets and everything. We didn't start that. You can't say it just started on somebody. If I'm in a hotel room right now, somebody built this hotel, right? Somebody started this thing. It wasn't you or me. It just you can't get something from nothing. And people say, well, how did God start? I don't know. One day I'll find out. But something started this, and it just didn't happen. And everything you see in this world, something had made it happen.
One of the famous lines in one of your movies that it stuck with me all these years. It was, I think you were playing a bad guy, a bad professor, right? And didn't believe in God, that whole bit. And the idea was, how can you be mad at something that you don't even believe exists, right? And you're right. They're so mad, and they're mad at God. They really are. But they don't want to acknowledge the existence of God. And therefore, we have this political thing. How is this really in your world? I mean, you're an actor. You're trying to bring faith movies back in. How difficult is that right now?
It's brutal and it's frustrating, because I meet plenty of very wealthy conservative Christian men that I do a lot of charity golf events, and they find, if they don't know who I am already, they find out quite quickly where I stand as an actor. I mean, some may go, oh gosh, I thought for sure you'd be one of those crazy lefties. And I go, you know what? Number one, I don't harbor the same anger and hatred towards people of a different point of view that they have towards me. I don't spend the time on the computer trying to get people canceled off Twitter and Facebook, like Facebook had me taken down. Okay. I don't get that, but I'm trying to do movies over the last 12 years, movies that have hope and love and faith and redemption and laughter, things that Hollywood just isn't doing right now. And you see it. You see what Disney's doing right now.
Yeah.
Walt Disney's flipping over his grave, and he said back in the 1950s, movies and television will influence our youth. Well, hello, what do you think is being played out in the streets, not only in America, but around the world right now? You can pretty much see all the hatred, anger, violence that's going on, and a lot of it is certainly brought about by these movies that people see and by what the press is always pushing. You got politicians pushing it. You got politicians calling for it on the left.
Yeah.
They call for it. You know, if you see a Republican in a restaurant, give them a hard time, congressman. If you go to the houses of the Supreme Court justices, threaten their lives. There's a law in the books. That's a fine up to a year imprisonment. Have they arrested any of these bozos that are outside Kavanaugh's house marching and saying, "Hey, let's kill this guy"? I mean, I don't get it. We have immigration laws, and nobody wants to follow the laws anymore. I mean, the minute Trump gets out of office, Biden gets rid of everything that he had on there. So I don't know. For me, I want to spread the message in a positive way, and I want to do movies that I grew up watching that made me motivated me to be a better person, and made me want to be a better person. So our biggest call is me trying to find $3 or $4 million. Sounds like a lot of money. That's nothing. Hollywood does $200-300 million movies, and then spends $100 million promoting them. From Avengers to Avatar to Pirates of the Caribbean, doesn't really matter. They spend tons of money on these movies with their message that they keep pushing across. I'm trying to find money to do movies with a positive message, and it's like I gotta make 100 phone calls a day. It's weird to me that I got to fight for this, but I'm going to keep fighting because this is my mission. My mission is to do movies that make people think about life in a positive way, not a negative way.
Well, and you have, I've watched you for the last several months, and prior to getting to know you, I got to know your wife, and
Sure.
You've been very consistent in that. You've been very predictable in that, and it's not something that you wonder where you stand on things. And I will say that I commend you for that. You haven't been a lukewarm anything. It's good. Having said that, you look at this going on in the world. What do you think, and this is a speculative question, what do you think is the answer in all this? How do we get this thing turned around?
I think because of the craziness and how far, every time you think they can't get any more insane, they do. I think the world is now saying enough is enough. And I think you're just going to see it here in the next election cycle. If we can have honest voting. I mean, let's face it. We've had voter fraud's been around forever, guys. It's been around forever. I read a documentary years ago. I mean, a story about the Nixon, 1960, when he lost to Kennedy. That was the closest election ever, vote for vote. I think it was like 700 votes that separated the two in the whole country. And it was well known that there was voter fraud in there as well. So it's been around forever. Why we can't have honest voting is weird to me. I don't get it. I mean, I've heard now for the last 10 years that asking an African American to show an ID is racist. In what way is it racist? I'm glad there was a guy who did a documentary. He went down to Harlem. He went and talked to all these people living in the neighborhood. He goes, "Do you have an ID?" And they look at him. Of course we do. One guy even said, "You white people are morons." Of course we know. The DMV's right there. We know how to get a. I mean, to sit there, it was 2012 when Biden, they were doing the second term for Obama and Biden. And Biden gets up in front of the Black Caucus and he says, "They're trying to keep you all in chains." And I went, "No, the Democrats want to keep the black population in chains because there's no money in it for the politicians if black people are able to be set free and get good education, get good avenues to find better jobs, get good avenues to find better health care. It's out there. It's people like Al Sharpton and Jackson that sit there and make their money off threatening companies saying, "Hey, you're going to be racist if you don't give us money." That's what they're out there doing. It's unbelievable. It's ransom money. And we need to stop that. And BLM showed it, right? All the money they made, they went out and bought a bunch of houses. And they got busted with it. And they went and talked to one of the main women that was behind BLM. And she says, "This is triggering me." They love you. They love their little phrases now. And we let them get away with it. So I think we should start saying that too. If they start going crazy, "Oh, you're triggering me. Leave me alone." I don't know. We have to match the organization and the passion that they have without the anger and the violence that they have.
I love that because even as I've been on this campaign trail for 10 months, I've learned a few things that if you match the intensity, you match the passion, but when you show love, it's completely disarming because it's totally different. It's a different approach. And speaking of disarming, I want to hit a bunch of subjects today. Let's talk about guns, man.
Sure. I just got 2 more added to my collection. What do you want to know?
Yeah. So talk about the attack on the Second Amendment. What do you see in that being the greatest danger?
Well, the greatest danger is that, number one, our founding fathers 250 years ago were bloody brilliant men, and they knew what that Second Amendment meant. It wasn't meant for hunting. It was to protect yourself in so many ways, to protect yourself against a tyrannical government as well, which we're seeing right now. And I sit there and look at people complaining about it. I go, the reality is the only people that would turn their guns in if you made them turn their gloves would be the 98% of people that are good people like you and me. Yeah. We're the only ones that would turn in our guns. You honestly think the bad guys of the world are going to go, oh, but damn it, we got to turn our guns in? You think they're really going to turn them in? And every single day I see off a blaze or something where some homeowner had a gun and he killed the intruder in the house who also had a gun. Yep. So if to sit there and try to take that away from people, to take that away protection, because right now we're sitting there, we want to defund police. Police are tired of doing their job because they just get attacked for doing their job now. Chicago's crazy. Chicago has the strictest gun laws in the country. They have more shootings every single year. I have a documentary out there called Bleeding Blue. I wish people would see Bleeding Blue. It doesn't paint cops as perfect people because they're not. There's always bad apples in every profession. But the majority of them are good guys that want to do their job and serve their communities. Well, in 2018 alone, there was over 4,000 shootings in Chicago. That's roughly 12, 13 a day, every single day. How many involved the police? I'll let you know how many involved the police. 0.2%. So 99.8% of shootings, 99.8, were done by mostly civilians and mostly, unfortunately, black on black. But let's not talk about that. What does the media go after? They go over that less than 1%. That's what they attack. It's incredible what they put out there. I don't understand what the mainstream media's objective is here. Do they really believe socialism is a good thing? Do they really believe communism is a good thing? It's like a disease that's going through the country right now. And you asked earlier about, where's it going? I think a lot of people are sick and tired of it now because I meet a lot of those people, go through hotels and airports, whatever, and come up and talk to me. I know I got the haters out there because they hate the truth. They hate honesty. They would rather, I think, the term misery loves company was made for those kind of people, and then it would drag you and I in that dark hole that they live in. No, I'm gonna keep fighting the fight, but they never come up to me to face me one-on-one. I'm happy to talk to them. Let's have a conversation. Let's not have a shouting match and an anger match. I would really love to understand that mind thought that they think socialism is good when the last century alone, 100 million people in the world were killed because of socialism. But hey, what do I know? I just look at history, even though the rest of them are trying to erase it.
No, I would ask you a scenario because this happened recently. There was a well-known actor that we all know went to Washington, got a platform, and began to talk about the need. He used the word need. You've got to do something. You got to do something about gun control. I listened to that and I was like, wait a minute. What happens to the people, Kevin, if we do give up our guns?
Crime's just going to skyrocket. It already is skyrocketing because right now they're not stopping people from doing what they want to do. They had to close down, in San Francisco, they closed down all 24 Walgreens because in California, anybody can go in any store and steal less than $1,000 worth of items, whether it's clothes, drugs, whatever it may be. How can any business survive with that? Because wave after wave of people are going in to steal. And what do they sit there and check the prices? Oh, I'm below $1,000. I can go now. They don't care. They're taking so much, and they had to close them down. We need to stop this. I don't understand how people keep putting people like this in office. When you look at the riots, not only in Minneapolis, of course, once again, a Democrat stronghold right now. Minneapolis, my home state of Minnesota, is turning into California with its politics. But you look at Washington, Oregon, California, all these crazy lefties right now on the left side of the country. They keep putting people in office that don't stop Antifa walking around harassing people and breaking into people's buildings and attacking people and destroying their businesses. What is wrong with people that we can't stop this right now? Because everybody I meet talks the same way I do. Yep. So I need to meet when I read where I see the polls. I hate these polls they put out, but when they say 31% support what Biden's doing, I want to meet those 31%. I go, what do you support? What is he doing that's so amazing to you? You're going, I'm going to vote for this. I wish he could live forever. What an amazing president. I just don't get it. I'm scratching my head all the time with these people.
Well, and certainly it's curious how the leftists get all this attention with the media. My theory on that is that, big pharma, socialistic agenda, the big money, Marxists, world leaders, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, Yuval Noah Harari, all those, they fund all this stuff, and it's a controlling mechanism. Sure. When we talk about our future, talking about our kids now, I'm talking about schools and how schools have become a place of indoctrination.
Sure.
Talk about that.
You know what? You and I didn't grow up with that. Not at all. When I was in school, even through college, no one told me how to vote. No one told me to believe in God or not believe in God. They taught math, history, science, whatever class they took, that's what they taught. It was unbelievable. We had a SWAT board in every room. So teachers had the right to give, if you were best behaving, to bend over and dip one in the keister. I don't get it. Not even in college, I didn't see that. It has been around. I think this indoctrination thing has been going on for decades. It just didn't happen in my little town of Minnesota, but it has accelerated the last 20 years, and it's just really taken off the last 10 years. And you see it, and you got to go. We got to get rid of it. We got to. I've always said public schools should not be public. They should be privately owned, run like a business. Mm-hmm. And because you see what's happening in these schools right now. You see the people coming out with nothing but anger and hate. There's a huge percentage of kids that go into college as conservatives, and it's like 80+% come out as liberals after 4 years of indoctrination.
Yeah.
And I look at these universities. I tell people don't go to college. I'm a college dropout. I've done okay with my life. My wife's a college dropout. I've done okay. Hey, by the way, Lord Gates is a college dropout. 1 year of college there. So I think that people should really consider finding a different way to make a living. I think all these college kids do is come in heavily. They're heavily in debt. They can't get a job anyway. Find out what you love. Find out what you want to do, and get internships and work your way up the ropes. Because to me, it's college right now is a total waste of time. And we're home educators. My wife, as you know, Sam, she's a homeschool advocate. She's got a number of books out there. She's got a big event happening this weekend up in Florida. And I tell people all the time, I said, you know what? You should think about homeschooling your kids, because one blessing of COVID, parents finally woke up and realized that these public schools are only being used by the parents really as a babysitting service for 6 to 8 hours a day. They saw how crappy it truly is now. And they said, wait a minute, now we have 2 million more kids being homeschooled. So thank God for a virus with a 99.7% chance of recovery. That's trying to destroy everybody in the world, has exposed themselves. And I think that's what the left does. They constantly expose. They're a snake that eats their own tail, and the gift that keeps giving. So I think people are really starting to wake up and realize education is important, but there's a better way to do this. Because prior to that, everything was taught at home. There was nothing but homeschooling back in the day for centuries. So I think we need to get back to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I look at the virus as the Romans 8:28 virus. It's something God used for his good, even though we didn't like it. It sure woke a lot of people up to reality, and probably it's a wake-up call we really needed. When we talk about kids, a lot of the indoctrination is like, let's just be honest. It's giving kids it's planting seeds where it's giving them the idea that they can change genders midstream anytime they want. They can become a cat even if they want. Talk about, and I want to kind of think about manhood in general, malehood, fatherhood. Why is that important, and why is it a detriment to our world when we lose that?
Well, it shows quite plainly in the black community, right? I mean, 1964, LBJ passed the Welfare Reform Act that basically said, hey, look, you in the African American community. I'm Norwegian American, by the way. I thought we're all Americans, but since we're going that way,
right.
They said, look, you can have kids, and if you don't have a man in the house, we'll take care of you. But if you have those kids, you can't have a man in the house. So we took the segment of our population in the black community that at a far lower divorce rate than the white community did. Mm-hmm. Well more than 80% stayed together. Now it's the other way around. 80% now in the black community are raised without a father. 80%. Because in 3 generations now, we have made it profitable in a way. It's something that grandma started, then the mother started, now the daughter's doing it. That by the time they're 25, 26 years old, they got 3-4 kids from 3 or 4 different guys. Mm-hmm. And there's no accountability. And what are the stats on it? These aren't my stats. The vast majority of them stay unemployed, get involved in gangs, violent crime, go to jail. All this stuff is there. I'm not making that stuff. You know it. Mm-hmm. Most people know it as well. That it's a horrible way to sit there and go through your life, and even the mother a lot of times isn't even there. The last story is the grandmother's raising them. How many times do you see a superstar athlete in football or basketball in college, and I hope he gets drafted, and it's the mother or grandmother. There's very rarely you see the father there. And it's a huge problem. And many people have brought this up in government as well, especially on the right side, saying that we need to do something about the fatherless issue because it's huge and it does play out well in terms of the stats I just brought up to you now. So families are important, and we're trying to get rid of them, which is really sad to me. And we have people getting married later and later. And I think a lot of that is a segment of our society as well, what's going on with technology, what's going on with the impatience of our world, because I think the biggest killer in America and even the world right now is apathy. Yeah. People, what can I do? And they just give up. And that's what government wants. Big government has never been a good thing for anybody. And you see that played out in all these countries that have big governments. I mean, you saw what Russia did during the Cold War and all these other countries. And what it did when it took over Romania and Bulgaria and Slovakia and all these other countries. And I've been to those countries, and I see what 50 years of communism did to them. And they're clawing and fighting their way to get out of that world.
You know, we stepped up to get in this race, my wife, Michelle, and I, who you'll meet soon enough. Man, it was like out of duty because we saw government getting too big. We saw tyranny becoming the norm. We saw it becoming accepted. And we decided we got to do something to stand in the gap for the people because the people are suffering right now. And when you look at people suffering, you mentioned the family unit. I want you to tell people about your latest book. It's called Embracing Adversity to Live in God's Light. Talk about that.
That's the subtitle. It's True Faith. It's a follow-up to my book, True Strength. Yep. Both books, True Strength and True Faith, really, they're not identical, but there's a lot of the same message in there. It's really about, God never promised any of us an easy life, whether you believe in God or not. You're not going to be easy life. There's always going to be ups and downs. Everybody's got a story. I get it. I've got my own story. You've got your story. Everybody's got a story. Everybody said bad things happen to them, whether it's physical, mental, psychological, health, whatever it may be. And how do you get through those moments? Well, you can blame a God that you don't believe in or blame God that you do believe in. You can blame family, friends, the world. You can blame anybody and everything. The reality is you got to look in the mirror. Here's what I say, cue Michael Jackson's song, Man in the Mirror. Look in the mirror and take responsibility for yourself because crap will happen to you. When it does, you got to say, okay, this just happened to me. What am I going to do about it? I can be angry about it all I want. But if I want to sit here and just become a pawn for the big government, because that's what government wants. They want cradle to grave responsibility for your life. Oh, we'll take care of you. We'll make everything perfect for you. And they won't. There's so much more satisfaction. Look, my dad was a public school teacher. I'm the fourth of 5 kids. We didn't have any money in the family. But one thing my mom and dad taught all of us was hard work. I started a paper when I was 9 years old. For 7 years, I got up at 4:30 in the morning and delivered 80 newspapers 6 days a week. In Minnesota winters, mind you. All right, for 7 years I did that. But it taught me hard work. It taught me that, to make anything happen in life, you've got to do it yourself. Make it happen. I don't want to sit there and get payouts from the government. And I want to make it on my own. Have an ego about your own career and own life, because you're going to get a hell of a lot more satisfaction on it. Yeah. Because if you look at people that just rely on the government and live off the dole and just get their check and, whine and cry, the most of them are miserable people. The ones you find that don't want to do that, they're the ones who keep fighting hard to get out of that hole. And I just say hard work, guys. It's got to be hard work. I used to caddy at this private country club, wealthy guys. I was 19, 20 years old, a couple summers in between college. And I asked them all, how did you get to where you are? And every single one of them said, oh, I failed. And then I failed again. Oh, and by the way, I failed a lot more after that too. So I learned that failure is a positive, not a negative. You can always take positive things out of bad situations. When I moved out to L.A., Buddy, when I was pursuing the actor's dream, I didn't know one person out here when I moved out here after college. But he said, Sorbs, remember, it's called show business, not show. And I always remembered that. Wow. And so I took my double major, even though I didn't finish college, but I was in marketing and advertising. I had 3.5 years of college and I dropped out. But I use marketing and advertising to advertise myself, because everything in Hollywood is about rejection and failure. There's always something they don't want you. Oh, you're too tall, you're too young, too old, too something. It's always some reason. And you got to fight through that to say, no, I'm the right guy for this job. So I worked my butt off. And that came from not only what my parents told me, but people I met, successful people I met along the way that told me all the roadblocks they went through to get to where they are.
No, you and Sam, got to know you guys. You guys are always working, and I appreciate that. It's good, right? Yeah. Kevin, where can people reach you? Talk about your website.
SorboStudios.com is the best place to go. There's KevinSorbo.net, but that's where that's going. That's inside now. It's SorboStudios.com. I've got 5 movies in the can. 2 of them I directed. 2 of them are documentaries, by the way. 4 of those will come out this fall. And then I did the Reagan movie with Dennis Quaid. He plays the president. I played his pastor. That comes out early January, February of 2023. I've got another 4 movies lined up this year. In fact, I'm leaving from Minnesota to film a movie there. Then I'm in New Mexico to do a sci-fi movie. Then I'm in Oklahoma to do a Western. So I'm staying busy. I like staying busy. I keep myself busy. I hate sitting around. And I admire guys like Clint Eastwood. He's in his 90s still making movies, and I got knock on wood, I'm still doing that too. So I'm trying, like I said, I just want to do movies that make people think, make them laugh a little bit, make them cry a little bit. But they'd be good cries, you know. But I'm going to put out good messages out there because there's a lot of lost souls out there, a lot of hurt people out there, and I know it's tough to ask people that are atheists or agnostic, hey, you want to come to a church? And they go, oh, there's church people there. I don't want to go there. But if you say, hey, do you want to go see a movie? You know, and I want to do movies like Blindside or like Green Book, movies out there that have the message is there, but it's not in your face. Because I get it. People don't want to be preached to, and I totally get that. But I think there's a better way to find a better way to live your life than what many people are living right now. And I'm not a perfect person by any means. I got to look for improvement every day. But I know there's a better way than what the government is trying to offer people, for sure.
Well, you certainly have been a wonderful breath of fresh air. You know, I've known a lot of people in my day, some big names, and it's a pleasure and an honor to get to know you and see the down-to-earth nature you are, to see the reality of who you are. It's not one thing in front of the camera and one thing behind. I can vouch for that with what little I know, and I'm looking forward to development of our own friendship, which is great. I'm super honored. With that said, Kevin, we get to our last little bit here. 2 minutes or less. What do you got for the hope of people, man? Inspire people right now. What can they look forward to?
I think the biggest thing is don't let anyone set your limitations. It's too easy to get down. It's too easy to give up. And it's too easy to let failure rule your life. A lot of people fail one time and they give up. Don't give up. You know, follow that dream. As corny as that sounds, I followed my dream. I wanted to be an actor since I was 11 years old. And I wanted to be an actor because I was inspired by old black and white movies my mom exposed me to that had Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, and Katharine Hepburn, and those kind of Humphrey Bogart, those people. And I love those movies. They always had great messages in there. That's why we keep doing. So once again, I hope people go to SorboStudios.com, support what we're doing, sign up. We'll keep you up to date for the things coming out. I've got wonderful movies that are there that you may have already seen, like God's Not Dead and Soul Surfer and What If and Let There Be Light, but there's many more to come. And we got to just keep fighting the good fight, guys. Don't be afraid. Hey, stand up for your convictions, okay? You might lose a friend, but if you lose a friend, they weren't friends to begin with.
Well, that's a good word, man. I appreciate your words of wisdom. I appreciate your passion. We've covered a ton of stuff, which is great. And I look forward to seeing you in Tulsa. We'll talk about getting you there for sure. I'm excited about that coming up. So, man, enjoy your time out there in crazy Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You'll not only survive, but you'll thrive, and you'll bring them the light of God's love. So I appreciate you, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark. Good luck with everything with you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Wow, man, that was amazing time with Kevin. Wow, we touched a lot of subjects. We talked about abortion. We talked about indoctrination. We talked about guns. We talked about leadership in general. We talked about Hollywood that's becoming nothing more than scandalwood. It's Sinville. It's crazy. But you saw the man that has a heart for God, a heart for people, and is willing to step up against the culture, against a culture that is crazy loaded with cash and money. And he told you his heart about what he's trying to do. And I encourage you with everything I am to support the project that Kevin and Sam Sorbo are doing. We'll make sure we put their websites again in the feed and make sure you have those handy to you and get their books, look at those movies. We've all seen him before in Hercules, but the strength that Hercules exhibited, we're now seeing exhibited through Kevin Sorbo, as I think you saw. With that said, that strength is exhibited through grassroots people just like yourself. A strength that says no matter what comes your way and no matter what comes our way, we're going to stand. We stand up against the giants. We don't back down. We run at the gunfire. We don't run away. We go at the bullets. We don't turn our backs. We face our enemy head on without backing down at all. We stand up to that enemy and we look him in the eye and say, you're not going to intimidate me anymore. Folks, we've been intimidated by the big bully, which is the federal government and big money, even the establishment rhinos, long enough. We've been intimidated by the left long enough. Isn't it time, my grassroots fellow Oklahomans, that we rise up and get heard? That you rise up and get noticed again? That you rise up and begin to take back ground? We've been backed into a corner. When you get backed into a corner, you've got two choices. You can go ahead and roll over and get creamed, or you can muster that strength inside of you and you can come back and you can fight back. Folks, we're in a time right now where we have to fight back. We must not back down, but we must step up. And our step up must be stronger and more bold than ever before. Because I'm telling you, friends, we're on the edge of losing everything. My wife and I are stepping up to be your next governor, not because we have to have this job, but because it needs to be done. And we're the right people to do it at the right time. People have said, well, you're not a politician. Exactly. You haven't been in politics. Exactly. That's exactly what makes us perfectly qualified. You need to understand, folks, that I don't live in fear. I don't live that way. We've been dealing with this idea of medical tyranny for 10 years, and the last 2, I'm not scared a bit. I really don't care. Somebody's had COVID, I'll give them a hug because I don't care. Because it's a time we've got to quit bowing down to fear. When you bow down to fear, it will overtake you, it will overrun you, and it will overpower you, and it will control you. Friends, fear is a tool of the enemy. Fear is a language of tyranny. But friends, freedom. Freedom is something that can ring once again, and it can start right here in Oklahoma. When it's time to vote, I want you to seriously, many of you know about the Liberty ticket. Go through that thing piece by piece, person by person, and make sure you vote accordingly. We are together in this. We're linked up, not just arm in arm, but we're linked up spirit in spirit and heart in heart. That's a group you can take on to the bank. That's a group you can take to war because we all decided that we're going to take a bullet for each other. That gives us great accountability and great certainty that we may be smaller in number, but oh, we're mighty in voice, we're mighty in deed. So folks, I'm asking you to put your faith to work and go vote. Keep my wife and I in your prayers. You can still go and download our app, Sherwood 2022. You can also see our website, sherwood2022.com. We look forward to seeing you in person at wherever that is and wherever that might be. But folks, we appreciate the opportunity to be your next governor. We will serve you with honor, dignity, and character, with a selflessness, with an idea of serving you as the people, with everything we have to honor God, protect the Constitution, and represent the people, you and me. We are together. It's about we the people. God bless you all. We appreciate you. My wife and I love you very much. We pray God's blessings on you, and may God bless these United States of America. Good night.
We have up is down, left is right, bad is good, confusion. And God is not the author of confusion.
God wants to bless America, but it starts with his people first, repenting and the ending of sin.
We have been in ministry the last 20 years. It was in prayer that the Lord began to convict me to run for office. And so I'm excited about Dr. Sherwood stepping up to the plate.
This is a man after God's own heart, who will not compromise with the devil.
He's bold, he's courageous.
I'm Nick Vujicic.
Warren Hamilton.
I'm Jake Merrick.
And I endorse
enthusiastically
Dr. Mark Sherwood
as governor of Oklahoma.
The ending of slavery happened with total abolishing of it. We must see this as well for abortion. It's America's Holocaust.
We still have abortions in Oklahoma. How can you be pro-life and have one abortion? Why not stop it right now? And I make a commitment right now that I'm going to do everything I can to completely abolish abortion in the state of Oklahoma within the first 30 days of office.
Vaccine mandates that are being rolled out right now are entirely unconstitutional and unbiblical. Every state that's a member of these United States, that's a member of our union, said we'll abide by the Constitution. That's why we don't tinker with it too much.
So I believe the word mandate doesn't equate to law. I am a big believer in the 10th Amendment, and that means state sovereignty. I would propose that every single business owner in Oklahoma that's affected by that ridiculous mandate push back and say no, because they don't own you. The federal government does not own you. We need to own that amendment, understand what it is, and not be afraid to push back.
We have to understand where critical race theory came from. Obviously, it comes from the Marxist handbook. And if we preach this and promote this, we end up a Marxist nation. It is not social justice. It is not anti-racism. It's actually racism in its purest form. The very thing Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, we're not going to allow this to be taught where we judge by the color of our skin.
There's one race. It's called the human race. I'm not going to apologize for being white. I'm not even white. I don't even know what I am. Kids in school need to be taught how to live life. Right now, we're teaching them theories about how to hate. That's not education, that's brainwashing. We will not do that under my administration. We will fine every school that does that, and if they don't like it, they can take their education and find another state that will accept that nonsense. People all need to be healed. Our state needs to be healed, our land needs to be healed, the economy needs to be healed, and our confidence needs to be healed. Our hope needs to be restored. God has gifted us as healers. We know that we're called to not just heal people individually like we do, but we know now we're called to heal a group of people called the state of Oklahoma. My name is Mark Sherwood, and I'm running for governor of the state of Oklahoma.